Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial, and today we're going to be talking about repair lockers, particularly how many an Iowa-class battleship has, and what they're called, and why they're called that. So, my good friend Megan Rathbun, formerly the curator of Battleship Missouri, now the executive director up at Battleship Cove, and I were arguing the other day that Iowa-class battleships, she says, have 8 repair lockers. I've always said 11. That's the number that shows up in our crew handbook, which was written by somebody who worked at the Philadelphia Navy Yard on this ship. And the guy who wrote that does a tremendous amount of research, and by and large I take his stuff at face value. So it was real easy for me to rationalize how we would have 11 when Missouri only has 8. New Jersey was the engineering efficient Iowa-class battleship in the 80s, and it wasn't because her 40-year-old power plant was that great. It was because of her repair parties. New Jersey is absolutely legendary for her repair parties in the 1980s. So, as you walk around New Jersey, you find damage control equipment stored in places throughout the ship that you just don't see it on our other sister ships. Because that was something the crew thought was very important and focused on, and so they installed a bunch of stuff around the ship that was ready service, ready to go. So it was easy for me to say, yeah, they probably just installed extra repair lockers. This one, off of the wardroom on the main deck, is an actual repair locker. It makes sense. Some of the other ones that we find as we go through the inside of the ship, though, are much smaller. Like one of them has doorways in and out. Like it's not like an actual locker. They can't even have the door closed and locked to keep the equipment safe inside. So it's one of those things that, you know, maybe this isn't original. So finally, after arguing back and forth for a little bit, I go to the booklet of general plans. So we're going through the booklet of general plans, and sure enough, going through the ship, we're able to find 8 repair lockers and no more. And what's more, it is worth noting, the booklet of general plans for New Jersey is not correct to New Jersey in the period she currently is configured. That booklet of general plans was written in 83 or 84, near the beginning of her commission, and the ship then goes on to serve until 91, and there are a tremendous number of changes, both documented and unauthorized ship alts, that were done to the ship that are not reflected in the booklet of general plans. Remember, a plan is just a plan. It doesn't mean that that's what actually was done. So I'm still able to rationalize, all right, there's only 8 listed in here, like Megan says, but that doesn't mean there aren't more around the ship. What's more, the booklet of general plans for New Jersey is not actually New Jersey, even though it says New Jersey, and each of the Iowas has a different booklet of general plans. They used Iowa's 1950s booklet of general plans to update into New Jersey, and there are some weird holdovers in there that are correct for Iowa but never show up on New Jersey, which is interesting because the ship had a booklet of general plans in the 60s that much better reflects the ship, so I don't understand that one. Anyway, another confusing thing here is the repair lockers are not just numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That, my friends, would be far too easy, which means the Navy would never choose that option. So we have repair lockers, and the thing that blows my mind is on the booklet of general plans, they don't use consistent naming for them. So it's not like they all say repair locker and then name of repair locker. Some of them are DC locker, some of them are RPR, some of them are aft rep. Like, they use different abbreviations on the same page. It's not even like one guy wrote this page, another guy wrote that page, and used different ones. On the same page, they say different things. I suspect what's going on here is the repair locker naming conventions are changed over time. And some of the rooms retain their old names, some of them get new names. And that makes it very confusing for someone like me who's now researching this. I look at the booklet general plans. All right, so I've got my list of them. We've got RPR2, we've got aft rep 3A, we've got rep 3, we've got 3B aft. All of these different ones. What in the heck does that mean? And going around the ship, we've got original signage like this one, the succession of command for damage control. So Damage Control Central, DCC, is in charge of damage control operations, but if that gets knocked out for whatever reason, Repair 3 takes over. And Repair 2, 5 aft, 5 forward, blah, 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 blah. So this is only listing 6 repair lockers, not even the 8 that Megan says or the 11 that I thought. So, and the names on there absolutely do not match the names on the booklet general plans. So, like, what the heck is going on with this? And why is this one 1F and not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So, the long and short of it is the Navy system, or the system that the Navy came up with, relates to the various sizes of ships in the Navy. A destroyer is not going to need as many repair lockers as a battleship. And a battleship probably doesn't have as many repair lockers as a nuclear aircraft carrier. So why not just name it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Because the numbers mean different things depending on where they are. So, first off, if you see an F on a repair locker, that means it is forward. If you see an A on a repair locker, that means it is aft. If you see a B on a repair locker, that means that it is somewhere in the middle. Don't ask me what the B means. Amidships, like between F and A? I don't know why B is middle, but that's how it shows up. B may well mean something to a sailor. If you're a sailor and you know what the acronym B stands for, that means between F and A. Let us know in the comment section down below. Very interested in hearing the rationale behind that one. But that's what the letters mean. The numbers tell you what it does. So for example, 1 means that it is on the main deck or above. I'm not familiar with any repair lockers being above the main deck on any of the ships I've worked on, but in theory, main deck or above would be the number 1. The inside the ship repair locker for the forward part of the ship is number 2, and the one for the aft part of the ship is number 3. The one for the engineering spaces is number 5. And if there's an amidships repair locker, that's supposed to be number 4. And then there are some other numbers as well. The only ones that seem to apply to the battleship are 1, 2, 3, and 5. Also worth noting at this point, because you can't just call everything a damage control locker or repair locker, and those terms are more or less interchangeable. There are other types of lockers around. Number 8 would be engineering casualty control training, which probably only shows up on aircraft carriers, which is interesting when you've got 5 that is propulsion repair. Don't get me started on all that. There are other ones too. On an Iowa-class battleship, in addition to the 8 repair lockers, there also is a crash and salvage team locker, which New Jersey has at the aft end of the superstructure. The other 3 Iowas have in the old film projection booth aft of turret 3. So that falls into the repair locker thing, but is not actually listed as Repair 1 because it's a specific thing, even though all of these are relatively specific. You might also have an at-sea fire party locker, a DC equipment locker, a explosive ordnance disposal team locker, particularly on like aircraft carriers that have bombs and things like that. Additionally, we've already talked about Damage Control Central. You've got a log office. Some ships DCC and the log office are one space. Log office is where all the blueprints are stored. It's like the engineering office. And then Damage Control Central, because we're big enough to have a separate space just for damage control. We've also got a damage control office here on the main deck, and at least one damage control workshop down near the refrigeration plant. Don't ask why. And although I've got no evidence that Battleship New Jersey ever carried explosive ordnance teams, Wisconsin did during the Gulf War, but that wasn't an assigned crew. Those were sailors from an EOD team that were temporarily put on Wisconsin. Interestingly, they tried to give Captain Case one for Missouri, and he said, no, we're not using a battleship for minesweeping, and basically told them they couldn't use the ship. So far as I know, Wisconsin is the only battleship with an EOD team, or to ever carry an EOD team in the U.S. Navy. If you know of any other examples of that, let me know. I'd be interested in hearing. So, having gone through all of that, we actually went and checked each of the repair lockers to see what they're called, because, like I said, it doesn't match what's in the booklet of general plans, and then confirm the type of equipment was there. Does it match up with what they're used for? So, like the one on the main deck here, probably not going to be used to fight flooding. You don't see any pumps here, but you do see a bunch of firefighting equipment. That makes good sense. The ones for engineering casualties, Repair 5, those might face flooding or fire, but more likely to be a fuel fire. The crash and rescue locker, you're going to want to be able to fight an aviation fuel fire to be able to go in and pull the people out of, presumably, a helicopter on an Iowa-class battleship. Another thing related to these are battle dressing stations. And that's where I believe that 11 number came from. There is a chart down in Damage Control Central that shows the 6 repair lockers in the order of succession, and then 4 battle dressing stations and Damage Control Central. So I believe that the manual just took those 11 things from the order of succession in Damage Control Central, and that is where that 11 number came from. But in fact, the ship has 8 repair lockers, not 6. That order of succession chart appears to be from Vietnam, so it seems like in the 80s they added more. Also, the ship has 6 battle dressing stations, not 4. So there is at least one place at Repair 5 aft, on the aft end of Broadway, which has a plastic sheet similar to this one with another plastic sheet under it labeling another place, and then a third plastic sheet under it labeling one other place. So those seem to be additions, maybe even later in the 80s, to the ship. So battle dressing stations are just triage points where you would take somebody during general quarters. The ship is locked down, so you can't take someone who's been wounded and get them all the way down to medical on third deck inside the armored citadel. So instead, you take them to a battle dressing station to triage, and then when it is safe to move them, they've been stabilized and put on a backboard or stretcher or whatever the case is, and have been prioritized, and you're at a point where you can actually open the armored hatches to get down into the citadel. Then you can move this person. And so Repair 1F has the main battle dressing station associated with it. That's the one in the wardroom. We only took damage one time as a result of enemy action. That was in May of 1951. An enemy shell struck the faceplate of Turret 1. It didn't do much damage to the ship, but Repair 1F here at the forward end of the superstructure, the one on the main deck assigned forward duties, responds to that damage. They're able to find 4 wounded sailors and bring them to main battle dressing here in the wardroom, which is the one associated with their repair locker right next door to it. And 3 of the casualties are treated there. 1 passes away before they're even brought to the battle dressing station. So, do you think the Navy's number letter system for naming these spaces makes sense? Or do you think they should just call them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Let us know in the comments section down below. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate the support you guys have given the museum over the years, and there's a link in the description below if you'd like to continue supporting us. You can also support the museum by liking, sharing, subscribing so more people find out about us and our channel. Thanks for watching.